Have you ever asked yourself, why do you know exactly what you should do, yet you don't do it? And why do you keep waiting for motivation, even though you already know it never shows up when you need it most? If these questions feel uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Discipline is not something you were born with. It is not a personality trait reserved for a few special people. And it has nothing to do with being aggressive, extreme, or living a perfectly structured life. Discipline is a skill. And like any real skill, it can be trained, strengthened, and built over time. Most people fail not because they are lazy, but because they misunderstand what discipline actually is. They think discipline means feeling motivated. They think it means changing everything at once. They think disciplined people never feel resistance, boredom, or mental fatigue. That belief is false. The truth is much simpler and much harder to accept. Disciplined people feel resistance every single day. They just don't argue with it. This audiobook is not designed to hype you up for a few minutes and then leave you empty. It is not here to feed you comfort or inspirational quotes. It is here to give you a structure that works even when you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated. Because real discipline is not emotional. It is mechanical. You don't wait until you feel ready. You don't wait until conditions improve. You don't wait until motivation appears out of nowhere. You act first, and the feeling comes later. Throughout this audiobook, you will learn how discipline is built the same way strength is built. Through repetition, through small actions, through showing up even when nothing feels exciting. You will understand why relying on motivation keeps you stuck, why comfort slowly destroys progress, and why your environment often matters more than your willpower. This is not about becoming extreme or turning your life upside down. It is about becoming consistent. Small actions, done daily, without drama. By the end of this audiobook, discipline will no longer feel confusing or unreachable. It will feel practical, structured, and simple enough to apply immediately. This audiobook is divided into 10 chapters. Each chapter builds on the one before it. Each one designed to remove excuses and replace them with systems that force action. You don't need confidence to be disciplined. You don't need inspiration. You don't even need to believe in yourself. You just need to act before you feel ready. Right now, as you listen, your mind is already searching for reasons to delay, to postpone, to stay comfortable. Ignore that voice. Discipline begins the moment you stop negotiating with yourself. And this is where it starts. Chapter 1. Discipline is a system, not a personality. Most people believe discipline is something you either have or you don't. They look at disciplined individuals and assume they were born different, more focused, more driven, more mentally strong. That belief is comforting. Because if discipline is a personality trait, then failure is not your fault. But that belief is wrong. Discipline is not who you are. It is what you build. If discipline were based on personality, the same people would be disciplined in every area of life. But that's not what happens. Someone can be extremely disciplined at work and completely undisciplined with their health. Someone can be consistent at the gym and reckless with their finances. That alone proves discipline is not a fixed trait. Discipline is situational, and situations can be designed. Most people fail at discipline because they rely on willpower. They try to force themselves to act differently without changing anything around them. They expect their mind to cooperate while their environment constantly pushes them toward comfort. Willpower is not a strategy. It is a temporary resource. Every decision you make drains it. Every distraction weakens it. Every moment of resistance consumes it. By the end of the day, there is nothing left to fight with. This is why discipline collapses at night. This is why promises made in the morning are broken in the evening. This is why consistency feels impossible. Not because you are lazy, but because you're fighting biology. The disciplined mind is not stronger. It is protected. Protected from unnecessary decisions. Protected from constant temptation. Protected from emotional negotiation. True discipline removes choices instead of relying on them. If you have to decide every day whether to do something, you will eventually decide not to. Decision fatigue always wins. Disciplined people understand this, even if they never consciously explain it. They do not ask themselves what they feel like doing. They already decided in advance. The decision was made once. The action is simply repeated. This is why routines matter more than motivation. A routine does not ask for permission. It runs whether you feel ready or not. When discipline feels hard, it usually means your system is unclear. You don't know exactly when to act. You don't know exactly what action comes next. And you don't know what happens if you don't act. Vagueness creates resistance. The clearer the system, the less energy discipline requires. If your goal is vague, your effort will be inconsistent. If your plan is loose, your execution will be weak. Discipline thrives on precision. Not big goals, not emotional promises, but clear rules. Rules remove negotiation. When there is no rule, the mind debates. When the mind debates, comfort wins. This is why telling yourself, "I should," never works. Should is optional. Rules are not. A disciplined system answers 3 questions before action is required. What needs to be done? When it needs to be done? What happens if it is not done? Without these answers, discipline becomes a daily argument with yourself. And arguments are exhausting. Discipline is not about intensity. It is about inevitability. The action happens because it is scheduled, because it is expected, because it is non-negotiable. This does not mean being extreme. It means being consistent. Consistency beats intensity every time. Most people try to change their behavior by changing their emotions. They wait to feel focused. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident. Disciplined people reverse that process. They change behavior first. Emotion follows action. Confidence is built after repetition. Motivation appears after progress. Clarity emerges after movement, not before. This is uncomfortable at first because it removes the excuse of waiting. Waiting feels safe. Action feels risky, but discipline is built in motion, not contemplation. If you are waiting for the perfect mindset, you will wait forever. The mindset you want is created by doing the work you are avoiding. This is the paradox most people never accept. Discipline does not feel good at the beginning. It feels mechanical, uninspiring, sometimes boring, and that is exactly why it works. Emotion-based systems collapse under pressure. Mechanical systems survive it. Discipline is not about proving strength. It is about removing weakness from the equation. When you stop relying on how you feel, discipline becomes predictable. And when discipline is predictable, results become inevitable. This chapter is not asking you to push harder. It is asking you to think differently. You do not need more motivation. You need fewer decisions. You do not need more discipline. You need a better system. And that is where real change begins. Chapter 2. Motivation is the trap that keeps you weak. Motivation is one of the most overrated ideas in modern self-development. People talk about it as if it is the engine of success, as if once you feel motivated, everything else will fall into place. That belief sounds good, but it quietly destroys consistency. Motivation is emotional, and emotions are unstable by nature. They rise quickly. They disappear just as fast. If your discipline depends on motivation, then your progress depends on your mood. And moods cannot be trusted. Some mornings you wake up feeling sharp, focused, ready to take action. On those days, discipline feels effortless. But those days are rare. Most days feel neutral, heavy, distracted, and slightly resistant. And when motivation is missing, most people stop. They tell themselves they will start tomorrow. They promise they will get serious next week. They wait for the feeling to return. It usually doesn't. This is why motivated people often fail. Not because they lack desire, but because they rely on a feeling that cannot be controlled. Motivation reacts to success. It reacts to excitement. It reacts to novelty. The moment progress slows down, motivation fades. And real progress always slows down. In the beginning, everything feels exciting. New goals, new plans, new identity. But once repetition starts, excitement disappears. What remains is resistance. This is the phase where discipline is supposed to take over. But motivated people never reach it. They interpret resistance as a sign that something is wrong. They assume they lost motivation because the goal is not right, or because they are not meant for this path. That interpretation is false. Resistance is not a warning sign. It is the entry point. The moment something stops feeling exciting is the moment discipline is required. Motivation trains you to associate action with pleasure. Discipline trains you to associate action with commitment. These are very different relationships. When action depends on pleasure, it becomes optional. When action depends on commitment, it becomes inevitable. This is where most people get trapped. They wait until action feels good. But action rarely feels good before results appear. Results come after repetition. Repetition requires discipline. Motivation skips that part. It makes you believe you should feel ready before you act. Discipline teaches you that readiness is created by action. If you only act when you feel ready, you train your brain to avoid discomfort. Over time, your tolerance for resistance shrinks. Everything starts to feel hard. Simple tasks feel overwhelming. Consistency feels exhausting. Not because the tasks are difficult, but because avoidance has been reinforced. Every time you wait for motivation, you strengthen the habit of delay. Your brain learns that discomfort can be escaped. Discipline reverses this process. Every time you act without motivation, you weaken resistance. You teach your brain that discomfort is temporary and survivable. This is how mental strength is built. Not through hype, not through emotional speeches, but through quiet repetition under resistance. Motivation feels powerful, but is shallow. Discipline feels boring, but it is deep. Motivation gives you bursts of effort. Discipline gives you direction, and direction creates momentum. Momentum is what changes identity. This is why disciplined people do not talk much about motivation. They don't need it. They rely on systems. Systems remove emotion from decision-making. When something is system-based, it happens regardless of mood. You don't debate whether to show up. You show up because it is scheduled. Motivation encourages negotiation. Discipline eliminates it. Negotiation sounds harmless, but it is the beginning of failure. The moment you start asking yourself if you feel like doing something, you give comfort a vote. Comfort always votes no. Motivation makes discipline conditional. Discipline makes action automatic. Another problem with motivation is that it pushes intensity instead of consistency. When you feel motivated, you try to change everything at once. You work harder than necessary. You set unrealistic standards. Then you burn out. Discipline is not interested in how much you can do in one day. It is interested in what you can repeat on your worst day. Small actions don't feel impressive. That is why motivated people ignore them. But small actions are the foundation of discipline. They reduce resistance. They lower the mental barrier to action. They create continuity. Discipline grows quietly. It does not announce itself. Most people quit small actions because they don't feel meaningful. But meaningful results are built from boring repetitions. The ego hates this process because the ego wants dramatic change. Discipline wants predictable progress. Motivation feeds the ego. Discipline trains the nervous system. Once you stop relying on motivation, something changes internally. You stop asking how you feel and start asking what is required. This shift is uncomfortable because it removes emotional excuses. You can no longer blame your mood. You can no longer wait for the perfect mindset. You act because action is expected. Emotions stop being instructions. They become background noise. Motivation becomes optional. It can assist you, but it no longer controls you. Strong systems do not collapse on bad days. They operate through them. This is what discipline actually provides. Stability. When action is no longer emotional, progress becomes steady. You stop riding highs and crashing into lows. You move forward at a controlled pace. And that pace, over time, beats everything else. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom from emotional chaos. You no longer feel guilty for not feeling motivated. You no longer wait for the right moment. You act because the action is part of the system. Motivation fades. Discipline remains. And once you understand this, you stop chasing feelings and start building results. Chapter 3. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. Most people believe self-control lives inside the mind. They think if they just become mentally stronger, discipline will finally stick. They try to fix behavior by fighting thoughts. That approach rarely works. Willpower is not as powerful as people think. It is fragile, it is inconsistent, and it is easily overwhelmed by the environment you live in. Your environment quietly shapes your behavior long before you make a conscious choice. It decides what is easy, what is tempting, what is unavoidable, and most people are fighting the wrong enemy. They blame themselves when they should be redesigning their surroundings. Every habit you struggle with is being supported by your environment. Every habit you want is being blocked by friction. Friction is the invisible force that decides behavior. If something is easy, you do it more. If something is hard, you avoid it. This has nothing to do with motivation or character. It is mechanical. Look at how people behave when food is placed in front of them. They eat without thinking, not because they are hungry, but because the environment invites it. The same principle applies to distraction, to procrastination, to discipline. If your phone is within reach, distraction wins. If junk food is visible, self-control loses. If comfort is available, effort feels optional. You're not weak. You are surrounded. Discipline becomes difficult when your environment constantly whispers an easier alternative. This is why relying on willpower fails. Willpower is trying to swim against a current that never stops. Eventually, it gives out. Disciplined people do not fight temptation all day. They reduce exposure to it. They design environments where the right action is the default. This is the secret most people overlook. Discipline is not about resisting. It is about removing resistance from the wrong direction. Every time you remove friction from a good habit, you increase the chance it happens. Every time you add friction to a bad habit, you weaken it. Small changes compound. If your workout clothes are visible, movement becomes easier. If your workspace is clean, focus lasts longer. If distractions are hidden, temptation loses power. This is not discipline through force. It is discipline through design. Most people wait until they feel disciplined to change their environment. Disciplined people change the environment to avoid needing discipline. This reversal is powerful. If you need to constantly remind yourself to act, your system is flawed. If you need constant motivation, your environment is working against you. Your environment includes more than physical objects. It includes digital space, people, routines, and expectations. Digital environments are especially dangerous. They are designed to steal attention, to reduce effort, to maximize comfort. Expecting discipline to survive inside that space without boundaries is unrealistic. If notifications are always on, focus will always be interrupted. If social media is always accessible, distraction will always win. You cannot out-discipline a system designed to distract you. The solution is not to fight harder. It is to limit access. Friction works both ways. When distractions require effort, they lose appeal. When productive actions are one step away, they become automatic. This is why disciplined people appear calm. They're not constantly deciding. They're following a path already cleared. Your environment trains your behavior silently. Every day, without asking permission. If you want discipline to grow, you must become intentional about what surrounds you. What you see, what you hear, what you reach for. Most failures of discipline are failures of setup. You cannot expect focus in a chaotic space. You cannot expect restraint in an indulgent one. Environment always wins in the long run. This is uncomfortable to accept because it removes the drama of self-blame, but also gives you control. You may not control your feelings, but you control placement. Placement of objects, placement of time, placement of attention. Discipline begins before action. It begins in preparation. When preparation is done right, action feels lighter. This is why disciplined people seem consistent even on bad days. Their environment carries them when energy is low. They're not stronger. They are better prepared. Another overlooked aspect of environment is people. Your behavior mirrors the standard around you. If laziness is normal, discipline feels strange. If discipline is normal, laziness feels uncomfortable. You absorb expectations without noticing. This is why your circle matters more than your intentions. Being around disciplined people raises your baseline. Being around undisciplined people lowers it. Not because of pressure, but because behavior feels appropriate or inappropriate based on context. Discipline thrives where standards are visible. If no one around you values consistency, consistency feels pointless. Environment sets the emotional temperature. You can fight it, or you can adjust it. Most people try to change themselves while staying in the same environment. That is like trying to stay dry in the rain without moving. Eventually, you get soaked. The smarter move is to step out of the storm. This chapter is not telling you to isolate yourself from the world. It is teaching you to protect your goals. Protection is not weakness. It is strategy. You don't test discipline by placing yourself in constant temptation. You preserve discipline by reducing unnecessary battles. Discipline is not proven by suffering. It is proven by consistency. Consistency requires stability, and stability comes from environment design. If you want to act differently, you must live differently. Not dramatically, but intentionally. Remove what pulls you backward. Make progress easier to access. This is not avoidance. It is alignment. When environment and goals point in the same direction, discipline stops feeling like force. It feels natural. You stop swimming upstream. You move with the current you created. That is real control. This chapter shifts responsibility without adding pressure. You're not broken. Your setup is. Fix the setup, and discipline follows. Chapter 4. Identity shapes behavior more than goals. Most people approach self-improvement backwards. They set goals first, hoping action will follow. They believe if they want something badly enough, they will eventually become disciplined. That approach rarely works. Goals are temporary. They are external. They exist outside of who you are. Your identity, however, is internal. It defines your perception of what is normal. It decides what actions feel natural and what actions feel forced. If you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, every attempt at action feels unnatural. It is like swimming against a current. Your mind constantly reminds you who you are, and you conform. If you see yourself as disciplined, every action aligns with that identity. Even small actions feel consistent. Even when motivation is absent, the behavior persists. This is the fundamental truth most people ignore. Discipline is not built by setting goals. It is built by shaping identity. A goal without identity is fragile. It is a wish. It can be broken by resistance, fatigue, or distraction. An identity creates automatic behavior. Consider the difference between someone who wants to run a marathon and someone who sees themselves as a runner. The person with the goal trains sporadically, motivated by the finish line. They miss workouts when tired. They skip long runs when weather is bad. The person with the identity trains because it is who they are. Weather, fatigue, and distractions do not dictate behavior. Training is automatic. It becomes part of the self. Identity precedes action, not the other way around. This concept applies to every habit: dieting, learning, working, meditation, productivity. If you try to act against your current identity, you fight yourself every step. Every action requires negotiation. Every decision drains energy. That is why building identity first is more effective than relying on goals. Identity determines the type of person you become, and the type of person you become determines the actions you repeat. And repeated actions determine outcomes. This chain is unbreakable once internalized. To change your behavior permanently, ask yourself, who do I wish to become? What kind of person consistently does the actions I want? Then act as that person would. Do not wait to feel like that person. Act like them now. The brain adjusts identity based on repeated actions. Consistency rewires self-perception. The first few actions feel unnatural. They feel forced. Resistance is high. The ego complains. This is normal. Every habit begins with discomfort. Every identity shift begins with repeated contradiction. But persistence transforms the unfamiliar into automatic behavior. Small victories accumulate. Confidence grows. Identity solidifies. If you want to be disciplined, act like a disciplined person. Even when you do not feel it. Even when the environment is distracting. Even when motivation is absent. Identity removes excuses. It replaces I should with I am. I should exercise becomes I am an active person. I should write daily becomes I am a writer. I should avoid distractions becomes I am focused. Notice the difference. When the action aligns with identity, resistance drops. The brain no longer debates. Discipline is no longer optional. Identity also explains why some people fail despite clear goals. They try to reach the destination without becoming the type of person who would naturally arrive there. They set targets without changing who they are. That is why rapid transformations rarely stick. Temporary motivation can produce short-term results. But unless identity is changed, old habits return. Old beliefs reassert themselves. Old behavior repeats. This is the cycle of failure most people never understand. Identity shapes perception. Perception shapes action. Action shapes reality. Every habit reinforces identity. Every action is a vote for the type of person you wish to be. Small actions matter more than dramatic gestures. Every time you act against your old self, you vote for a new self. Every time you skip an action, you reinforce the old identity. This is why consistency is more important than intensity. One small disciplined action each day is more powerful than hours of inconsistent effort. Identity also protects discipline when motivation and environment fail. When you see yourself as the type of person who gets things done, obstacles feel temporary. Discomfort becomes part of the process. Resistance is expected, not feared. Identity shapes perception before action. Without identity, action is fragile. With identity, action is inevitable. To adopt a new identity, start with small, repeatable actions. Choose habits that align with who you want to become. Make them non-negotiable. Make them visible. Consistency over time rewires self-perception. Expect the first phase to be uncomfortable. The brain resists change. Old beliefs fight new behavior. This is normal. It is a signal that identity is being challenged. Do not negotiate with resistance. Do not justify avoidance. The discomfort will diminish as identity strengthens. Identity also shapes language. How you describe yourself matters. I am someone who exercises is stronger than I want to exercise. I'm a disciplined person is stronger than I want to be disciplined. Language reinforces self-perception. Self-perception drives action. Action changes outcomes. Your identity is not static. It can be sculpted by intentional action. It can be reshaped through repetition. It can be reinforced by environment and social influence. Surround yourself with people who embody the identity you want. Consume media and messages that reinforce it. Structure routines that make the desired behavior default. Identity, environment, and routine work together. They are the foundation of lasting discipline. Temporary motivation can start action. Identity sustains it. Environment facilitates it. Routine secures it. Small actions accumulate into a new self. This process is slow, often invisible, and deeply mechanical. Discipline is no longer about effort or willpower. It becomes a natural extension of who you are. The person you become today determines the habits you repeat tomorrow. The habits you repeat tomorrow determine the identity you inhabit the day after. Every decision you make is a vote. Vote for the person you want to be. Vote consistently. Vote without negotiation. Identity is not a goal. It is a foundation. Without it, all goals crumble under resistance. With it, every action becomes aligned, intentional, and inevitable. This chapter is the turning point in understanding discipline. It shifts focus from what you do to who you are. Because the type of person you are shapes every choice, every habit, and every outcome. By the end of this chapter, you should see discipline not as a series of actions you must force, but as the natural behavior of the person you are becoming. Discipline is no longer about fighting yourself. It is about becoming yourself. And that is where true, lasting transformation begins. Chapter 5. Small habits compound into massive results. Most people underestimate the power of small actions. They think change must be dramatic. That transformation requires extreme effort. That discipline is built through grand gestures. That is a myth. Discipline grows quietly, invisibly, through repetition. Small habits, done consistently, create compounding effects. One push-up repeated daily eventually builds strength. One disciplined choice repeated daily eventually reshapes identity. The problem is impatience. We live in a world addicted to instant gratification. We want results yesterday. We measure progress in dramatic leaps, not incremental steps. This is why most people quit before they succeed. The results do not appear fast enough. The effort feels invisible. The mind doubts the method. But small habits are not about immediate results. They are about momentum. They're about building the system that generates results automatically over time. Every small action is a vote for the type of person you're becoming. Every skipped action is a vote for the old self. Consistency is the multiplier, not intensity, not motivation. Most people make the mistake of doing too much at once. They start intense routines. They push themselves beyond sustainable levels. They try to overhaul their lives in one dramatic moment. This creates fatigue, frustration, and eventual failure. Small habits avoid this trap. They are manageable. They require minimal willpower. They're easy to repeat. Start with one action. Do it daily. Make it so simple that resistance is negligible. Success is not about dramatic bursts of effort. It is about the quiet accumulation of repeated action. Think about compound interest in finance. A single dollar invested consistently grows over time. It does not matter how small the dollar is. The effect compounds exponentially. Habits work the same way. The smallest consistent behavior, repeated over months and years, creates results far beyond what intensity alone can achieve. One page written daily eventually creates a book. One disciplined decision daily eventually creates mastery. One small victory over resistance daily eventually creates an unstoppable momentum. The key is patience. Most people give up too soon. They do not see the effect of compounding because it is invisible in the short term. Discipline is a long game. The results are delayed, but the effort is consistent. Small habits also reduce friction. The brain resists big, overwhelming tasks. But small tasks are manageable. They feel achievable. They do not trigger procrastination. This is why repetition is more important than intensity. Doing a little every day beats doing a lot once. The person who writes 100 words daily outperforms the person who writes 2,000 words once a week. The person who exercises 15 minutes daily outperforms the person who works out intensely on random days. Consistency is the engine of progress. Intensity without consistency is wasted effort. Small habits also build identity. Each repeated action is a vote for the self you are becoming. Do it enough times, and the behavior becomes automatic. It becomes part of who you are. This is how ordinary people transform into extraordinary individuals. They are not extraordinary because of motivation. They are ordinary people who became relentless through repetition. They are not extraordinary because of talent. They are ordinary people who mastered small habits and compounded their effects. The challenge is that small habits require attention to detail. They require you to track actions. They require accountability. They require patience. Without awareness, small habits go unnoticed. Without measurement, they are inconsistent. Without accountability, they are easily skipped. This is why systems matter. A system ensures that small actions are repeated. A system removes guesswork. A system makes progress inevitable. Start by identifying the smallest possible habit that aligns with your goals. It should take minimal effort. It should be easy to repeat. It should be impossible to justify skipping. Then make it non-negotiable. Schedule it. Track it. Repeat it daily without fail. After weeks, the habit will become automatic. The resistance will fade. The behavior will feel natural. Then, layer another habit on top. Another small action. Another vote for the identity you are building. Over time, these habits compound. Your life begins to shift without dramatic effort. You stop fighting yourself. You stop relying on motivation. You stop questioning your ability. Discipline becomes automatic because the system supports it. The identity supports it. The environment supports it. This is how ordinary people create extraordinary results. Small habits also build resilience. Every action you repeat despite discomfort strengthens your tolerance for resistance. Your brain learns that effort is survivable. Your confidence grows. Your self-image strengthens. Momentum builds slowly but consistently. And once it reaches critical mass, it becomes unstoppable. You begin to act automatically without thinking. Discipline is no longer a struggle. It becomes your default state. The compounding effect of small habits is deceptive. You will not notice the change day to day. You will not see dramatic results immediately. But over months and years, the cumulative effect is enormous. One disciplined choice daily eventually turns into a lifestyle. One small habit daily eventually creates mastery. One victory over resistance daily eventually builds identity. The key is patience and consistency. Ignore the need for instant gratification. Ignore the pressure to achieve fast results. Focus on the system. Focus on the habit. Focus on the repetition. Every action counts. Every repetition matters. Every small step compounds into massive results. Do not underestimate the power of the small. The grandiose is flashy but unreliable. The ordinary is quiet but unstoppable. This is the essence of long-term discipline. The process is simple but not easy. It requires humility. It requires patience. It requires faith in the invisible accumulation of effort. If you embrace small habits, your life will transform silently. The results will appear inevitable. You will become the type of person who succeeds not because of motivation, but because the system, the environment, the identity, and the habits all work in harmony. Small habits are the backbone of real discipline. They're the secret behind consistent achievers. They're the mechanism by which ordinary actions create extraordinary lives. Your job is not to act heroically. Your job is to act consistently. Your job is to start small, repeat, and trust the compounding effect. The results will follow, and eventually, you will look back and realize that the person you have become is the cumulative effect of these tiny, consistent actions. Discipline, at its core, is not about heroic effort. It is about the small, repeated actions that nobody notices at first. It is about the compounding effect of doing the right thing daily, regardless of how you feel. This chapter proves that mastery is not a moment. It is a process, a system, a quiet accumulation of votes cast for the person you wish to become. Chapter 6. Time management is not about time. It's about energy and focus. Most people think time management is about scheduling. They buy planners. They create to-do lists. They set alarms. They measure hours and minutes. But they forget the most important factor. Time is constant. It cannot be stretched. It cannot be bought. It cannot be controlled. Energy and focus are different. They are variable. They rise and fall throughout the day. They determine how productive any given hour will be. No matter how much you plan, if your energy is low, results will be poor. If your focus is scattered, effort is wasted. This is why time management fails when people rely only on the clock. They try to force productivity without respecting their biological rhythm. Discipline is not about working harder. It is about aligning effort with energy and attention. Notice your natural peaks of focus. Your morning hours, your afternoon hours, your evening hours. Schedule your most important tasks during your peak energy periods. Schedule repetitive or low-value work when energy is low. This simple shift multiplies output without increasing effort. Most people ignore this. They treat every hour as equal. They fill the day with tasks without regard for mental capacity. This creates frustration, fatigue, and eventual burnout. Another common mistake is multitasking. Humans are not built for it. Switching between tasks drains energy rapidly. It reduces efficiency. It diminishes focus. Discipline requires singular focus. One task at a time, completed fully before moving to the next. This does not mean ignoring flexibility. It means prioritizing the essential over the trivial. Prioritization is not a once-a-day activity. It is constant. Every choice is a prioritization. Every action that you take over another is a vote for what matters most. Most people do not realize the power of these votes. They let minor distractions dictate attention. They react to notifications. They respond to urgencies that do not align with their goals. This is why environment design and habit formation complement time management. A well-designed system protects focus. It ensures energy is spent on high-value activities. The key is preparation. Preparation reduces decision fatigue. It preserves energy. It maximizes focus. Plan the night before. Decide your priorities. Remove obstacles in advance. This is not about strict schedules. It is about intentional energy allocation. Discipline grows when effort aligns with energy. Resistance drops when focus is protected. Another aspect often overlooked is task batching. Group similar tasks together to reduce context switching. Combine repetitive tasks efficiently. This technique saves mental energy. Micro-habits also help. Small routines that prepare you for focus amplify productivity. Morning routines, exercise, meditation, and planning increase energy reserves. Sleep is non-negotiable. Nutrition is foundational. Physical activity fuels mental clarity. Without energy, even the best time management fails. Discipline is not about filling every minute. It is about amplifying output during peak periods. It is about removing unnecessary decisions. It is about protecting attention. This chapter emphasizes quality over quantity. A single hour of focused work can produce more than an entire day of distracted effort. Learn to say no. Learn to eliminate tasks that do not align with your goals. Learn to reduce obligations that steal energy. Most people overcommit. They treat busyness as achievement. They confuse activity with progress. Discipline requires clarity. Clarity requires boundaries. Boundaries preserve energy. Boundaries protect focus. Technology is neutral. It can amplify energy or drain it. Use tools to automate low-value work. Remove notifications that break attention. Limit exposure to distraction. Social interaction matters. It is a source of energy and also a source of drain. Surround yourself with people who inspire and uplift. Distance yourself from energy vampires. Discipline is easier when energy is preserved and focus is protected. Effort alone is unreliable. Motivation alone is unreliable. The system of alignment between tasks, energy, and focus is reliable. Measure output, not hours. If 2 hours of focused work produces results, it is more valuable than 10 hours of distracted labor. Break tasks into manageable chunks. Schedule breaks strategically. Recover energy intentionally. This is how top performers sustain results over years. They do not work longer. They work smarter. Discipline is not a function of time. It is a function of energy allocation, focus protection, and strategic action. Every hour you waste due to poor focus or low energy is permanent. You cannot recover lost attention. You cannot reclaim wasted effort. Treat energy as currency. Spend it wisely. Invest it in high-value tasks. Save it for moments of strategic importance. Preparation, routines, boundaries, and alignment are the pillars of time management. Without them, discipline falters regardless of willpower. This chapter challenges the misconception that managing minutes is the solution. The real solution is managing yourself, managing energy, managing attention, managing the choices that dictate where effort goes. When you master energy and focus, time becomes sufficient. Deadlines become manageable. Productivity becomes predictable. Discipline thrives in this environment. It no longer requires brute force. It becomes automatic. The goal is not to fill time. It is to maximize meaningful output. It is to create leverage. It is to ensure every action moves you closer to your desired identity and outcomes. This chapter proves that efficiency is not about hours. It is about the quality of engagement, the protection of attention, the preservation of energy. Energy and focus are the true currency of discipline. Time is only valuable when aligned with them. Once you grasp this principle, you no longer blame the clock. You no longer feel overwhelmed by a full schedule. You no longer chase motivation or force willpower. You design your day around what you can execute best. You prioritize what matters. You protect your focus. You manage your energy. Chapter 7. The power of consistency beats short-term motivation. Most people overestimate the power of short bursts of motivation. They wait for a surge of energy or a sudden feeling of readiness to act. They believe that one intense session of effort can create lasting change. That is a misconception. Change is not created by moments of excitement. It is created by repeated action over time. Consistency compounds. Motivation fades. Consistency endures. Every day you act, even minimally, you reinforce the pattern of behavior. Every day you skip, even once, you weaken the structure of discipline. Consistency is the framework that supports achievement. Without it, motivation is a fleeting illusion. Consistency is not glamorous. It is not dramatic. It is quiet, boring, yet unstoppable. Many people give up because they compare themselves to extremes. They see someone else achieving massive results in a short time and believe they are failing. They think progress should be immediate. They forget that small actions repeated consistently create the same or even greater results over the long term. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum makes effort easier. Momentum builds identity. And identity makes action automatic. Every habit you repeat strengthens your identity. Every repetition is a vote for the person you are becoming. Skipping a habit weakens it. It reinforces the old self. Consistency removes the dependence on feelings. It removes the question of whether you feel like it. You do not wait for energy or inspiration. You act because the pattern is established. Building consistency requires reducing friction. Make the desired action easy to start. Remove obstacles. Lower the threshold. Small actions done daily outweigh sporadic, large efforts. A 10-minute workout every day is more effective than a 2-hour session once a week. Writing 50 words daily is more powerful than 1,000 words on weekends. The key is repetition, not intensity. Consistency transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. Discipline is built quietly, invisibly. It is forged by showing up when nobody is watching. It is strengthened by action when conditions are inconvenient. It thrives when effort is repeated despite resistance. The brain loves patterns. It craves familiarity. Consistency leverages this. Repeated action rewires neural pathways, making behavior automatic. Once the behavior becomes automatic, it no longer requires willpower. It no longer requires constant mental effort. It becomes a part of who you are. Consistency also protects against failure when motivation collapses. Motivation is emotional. It fluctuates. It cannot be relied upon. Consistent habits endure because they are independent of feelings. They operate through energy highs and lows, through busy days and fatigue, through boredom and excitement alike. The secret to long-term success is not motivation. It is not a perfect plan. It is consistent action over months and years. Most people fail because they underestimate the cumulative effect of small, repeated actions. They believe big changes require heroic effort. They underestimate the quiet accumulation of effort day after day. Consistency compounds in unexpected ways. Small actions repeated daily build skills. They build confidence. They build resilience. They build identity. Over time, results multiply. Opportunities increase. Your environment responds. Your network aligns. Your habits reinforce themselves. When you are consistent, you no longer need to rely on luck or inspiration. The system you have built carries you forward. Every habit, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every repetition strengthens the structure of discipline. Every skipped action weakens it. Consistency requires patience. The effects are not immediate. The results often appear invisible at first. Most people give up too soon. They do not allow time for compounding to work. They stop when progress seems slow. Yet the only thing slowing down their results is their own inconsistency. True growth is invisible at the start. Momentum is invisible at the start. The first repetitions feel insignificant. The early weeks may seem unproductive, but every repetition is building a foundation that cannot be seen yet. Persistence is the only variable that guarantees success. Motivation comes and goes. Talent is unreliable. External circumstances are unpredictable. Consistency, however, is under your control. Small actions repeated consistently eventually create systems. Systems make behavior automatic. Automatic behavior sustains results. The person who writes every day, exercises regularly, or practices consistently achieves mastery not through sudden genius, but through repeated, faithful effort. Consistency also builds resilience. Every time you act despite fatigue, boredom, or distraction, you reinforce your tolerance for discomfort. You teach your mind that effort is survivable. You increase your capacity to sustain focus. Habits aligned with identity become effortless over time. Consistency makes discipline natural. It removes negotiation. It removes excuses. It removes reliance on emotion or motivation. Small, daily actions accumulate exponentially. A single choice repeated consistently for months or years compounds into life-changing results. The principle applies across all areas: health, wealth, knowledge, skill, and relationships. Consistency in action compounds in each domain. Extraordinary achievement is rarely the result of inspiration or bursts of effort. It is almost always the result of steady, repeated effort over time. Focus on showing up every day, no matter how small the action, no matter how boring it feels, no matter how little progress you perceive. Every repetition counts. Every vote for the person you are becoming matters. Every consistent day builds momentum that cannot be reversed. Consistency is the weapon against chaos. It is the antidote to distraction. It is the mechanism that turns ordinary actions into extraordinary outcomes. Once you embrace consistency, motivation is no longer needed to sustain effort. You act because the habit exists. You succeed because the system exists. You thrive because repetition has rewired your mind. Long-term discipline is not about excitement. It is about showing up day after day. It is about trusting the invisible work being done beneath the surface. Consistency is the bridge between effort and results. It converts intention into reality. It converts small actions into mastery. It converts daily discipline into lasting transformation. The results may not be immediate. They may not be flashy. They may go unnoticed by others. But when compounded over months and years, consistency becomes unstoppable. It transforms ordinary people into disciplined individuals. It transforms individuals into masters of their craft. It transforms small, deliberate actions into massive, life-changing outcomes. Discipline does not require perfect days. It does not require endless motivation. It only requires showing up repeatedly, without fail, in alignment with your goals and identity. Every day, you act consistently. You reinforce your future. Every day you skip, you weaken it. The only question is whether you choose to cast votes that build your future or leave them uncast. Consistency is not a tactic. It is a lifestyle. It is a mindset. It is the force that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Chapter 8: How to Master Self-Control by Shaping Your Habits. Self-control is not a superpower reserved for a few gifted people. It is not a trait you are born with. It is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained. The key lies not in willpower alone, but in the habits you build around yourself. Most people try to resist temptation directly. They rely on mental strength to say no. They fight impulses every day. This approach is exhausting and unsustainable. Self-control is more effective when you don't fight impulses, when you shape your environment, when you design habits that make the right choice the easiest choice. Every habit is a feedback loop. The behavior reinforces identity. Identity reinforces behavior. The system builds itself silently over time. Small habits are the foundation of self-control. Skipping one cookie becomes natural when the habit of mindful eating exists. Choosing to study for 15 minutes daily becomes natural when a consistent learning routine is in place. Exercising 5 minutes daily becomes natural when the habit of movement is established. The principle is simple. If you make good habits easy and bad habits hard, self-control becomes almost automatic. If you make bad habits easy and good habits hard, even the strongest willpower will fail eventually. Start with small habits that require minimal effort. Do not aim for perfection. Do not aim for extremes. The goal is repetition, not intensity. Habits need triggers. Triggers remind the brain what action is expected. Place cues in your environment to activate desired behavior. A water bottle on your desk reminds you to hydrate. Running shoes by the door remind you to exercise. A notebook on the nightstand reminds you to write before bed. Eliminate triggers for bad habits. Hide distractions. Remove temptations. The less your brain is exposed to easy indulgence, the easier it is to maintain self-control. Consistency over time rewires the brain. Self-control is less about effort and more about structure. Your brain learns that the right action is the default. The wrong action requires effort, and effort becomes a deterrent. Another crucial factor is timing. Willpower is strongest when energy is high. Use that energy for your most important or challenging habits. Avoid attempting difficult self-control tasks when you are tired, hungry, or stressed. Recognize your natural rhythms and align habits accordingly. Discipline is easier when you reduce decision fatigue. Decide the actions in advance. Plan the sequence of behaviors. When the path is clear, self-control is preserved. Tracking progress strengthens self-control. Seeing small wins daily reinforces identity. It proves that effort produces results. It encourages repetition. Accountability amplifies self-control. Share your habits with someone who supports your growth. Knowing that someone observes progress increases adherence. Social reinforcement strengthens consistency. Self-control also grows when you embrace minor discomfort. Avoidance of small challenges weakens resilience. Acting despite discomfort trains the mind to tolerate resistance. Over time, temptation loses its power. Failure is part of the process. A single slip does not define you. It is a signal to adjust the system. Identify triggers, tweak habits, and continue. Consistency outweighs perfection. Focus on systems, not outcomes. Do not rely on motivation alone. Do not rely on sheer willpower alone. Build structures that make good choices easier. Every habit has layers. The physical environment, the social context, the mental framing, all influence behavior. Manipulate each layer to support self-control. Remove friction from positive habits. Add friction to negative habits. Reward yourself strategically. Positive reinforcement strengthens habits. Celebrate consistency, not occasional spikes of effort. The reward does not have to be external. Satisfaction from completing the action is enough. Over time, repeated habits redefine identity. You become someone who naturally exercises self-control. You become someone who naturally makes disciplined decisions. The behavior no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes part of who you are. Self-control compounds. Every repeated action strengthens the foundation for the next. Every avoided temptation reinforces your confidence. Every small victory prepares you for larger challenges. The secret of mastery is invisible at first. It is the quiet accumulation of small, disciplined choices. It is the repetition of actions long before visible results appear. It is the structure that removes the need for heroic effort. Focus on the process, not the goal. Goals are temporary. Habits are permanent. Process-driven action ensures self-control endures beyond short-term motivation. Expect obstacles. Expect fatigue. Expect lapses. Prepare systems to absorb setbacks. Repetition is more important than perfection. Gradually, self-control becomes effortless. Discipline is no longer a battle. It becomes the default response. The key principles are simple. Make good habits easy. Make bad habits hard. Use triggers to activate positive behavior. Track progress. Align habits with energy peaks. Accept minor discomfort as part growth. Build systems that protect focus and energy. When these principles are applied consistently, willpower is no longer the primary driver. Self-control is structural. It is built into your habits, environment, identity, and routines. The results are predictable. The effort becomes less conscious. The path forward is clear. The person you are becoming acts automatically in alignment with your goals. By shaping your habits deliberately, self-control becomes sustainable. Discipline is no longer a struggle. It becomes natural. It becomes unstoppable. It becomes who you are. Chapter 9. Overcoming resistance. Every human being faces resistance. It is a constant force working against action. Resistance shows up as procrastination, distraction, fear, or excuses. It whispers, "Not now," "Too hard," or "Why bother?" Resistance is strongest at the start of any meaningful change. It grows in the face of discomfort. It thrives on uncertainty. It feeds on our desire for comfort. Most people surrender to it. They delay action. They rationalize inaction. They prioritize comfort over growth. Discipline is the ability to act despite resistance. It is the courage to choose growth over immediate comfort. It is the skill of showing up when the mind fights back. Resistance is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal of progress. It indicates that you are pushing boundaries. It shows that you are moving beyond the familiar. The key to overcoming resistance is understanding it. Resistance is not an enemy to destroy. It is a force to respect and navigate. When you recognize resistance, you gain power over it. The first step is awareness. Notice when resistance arises. Observe the excuses your mind produces. Identify the patterns that trigger avoidance. The second step is strategy. Break large tasks into smaller, manageable actions. Make the first step so small that it feels almost effortless. Action, even minimal, reduces resistance. The third step is momentum. Once the first step is taken, momentum grows. Action begets action. Small victories create a chain reaction that weakens resistance. Discipline is about building systems that reduce friction. Friction is the physical and mental barriers that make action harder. The more friction you remove from positive actions, the easier it is to overcome resistance. Environment design is crucial. Your surroundings influence behavior more than willpower. Arrange your workspace, schedule, and social environment to support growth. Remove distractions. Place cues for desired behavior in plain sight. The path of least resistance should always lead toward action. Time management also plays a role in overcoming resistance. Do the hardest or most important task first when energy and focus are highest. Delay increases resistance. Procrastination strengthens it. Action weakens it. Emotional regulation is another factor. Resistance often comes disguised as negative emotion. Fear, doubt, or frustration can stop progress. Learn to acknowledge feelings without surrendering to them. Act in alignment with goals despite discomfort. Consistency compounds the power to overcome resistance. Every repeated action reduces the mental cost of the next action. Every victory over procrastination strengthens identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who acts, not someone who delays. Self-talk matters. Replace statements like, "I can't," or "I'm too tired" with "I will take one step now." Focus on process, not outcome. Momentum grows from action, not motivation. Small habits are powerful allies against resistance. They create structure and predictability. They lower the barrier for action. Even minimal habits, repeated daily, chip away at the strength of avoidance. Visualize the long-term benefits of action. Picture the version of yourself who has consistently overcome resistance. Anchor your identity to that version. Act in alignment with that identity today. Social accountability strengthens resistance management. Share your goals with supportive peers. Knowing someone is observing progress creates external motivation. Supportive environments reinforce internal discipline. Celebrate small victories. Each action taken against resistance is a win. Each step forward strengthens confidence. Each success reinforces the belief that you can act despite discomfort. Resistance will never disappear completely. It is a natural part of growth. The difference between success and stagnation is the choice to act anyway. Overcoming resistance is not about eliminating discomfort. It is about acting in spite of it. Comfort is temporary. Growth is permanent. Choosing the latter requires courage, patience, and repeated practice. Energy management is essential in the battle against resistance. Do not attempt major challenges when depleted or stressed. Leverage periods of high energy to tackle difficult tasks. Conserve energy for sustained action. Mindset shifts reduce the power of resistance. Reframe obstacles as opportunities to strengthen discipline. View discomfort as a signal of growth rather than failure. Understand that each struggle builds the foundation for mastery. Self-compassion is also vital. Failure or setbacks do not negate progress. Learn from mistakes. Adjust strategies. Continue. Discipline is less about moments of courage and more about repeated small victories over resistance. The battle is continuous. It is fought daily in small, consistent actions. Each victory compounds into larger success. Fear often masquerades as resistance. Facing fear directly builds confidence and resilience. Action reduces the grip of fear, making subsequent challenges easier to overcome. Routine is a weapon against resistance. When desired behaviors are embedded in daily routines, action becomes automatic. Resistance loses power because the behavior is expected, not optional. The cumulative effect of overcoming resistance daily is transformational. Skills improve. Confidence grows. Identity shifts. Discipline solidifies. The strongest individuals are not those who never experience resistance. They're the ones who act despite it. They have systems, habits, and mindset structures that neutralize excuses. They persist. Every person faces the same universal force, resistance. Success is determined by how effectively that force is managed. The choice is yours. Surrender to comfort or act toward growth. Over time, repeated victories over resistance create a self-perpetuating cycle. Action reinforces identity. Identity reduces future resistance. Momentum builds naturally. Discipline becomes the default response. The battle is internal, silent, and ongoing. There are no shortcuts. There is no permanent escape. There is only action, consistency, and the choice to prioritize growth over comfort. By understanding resistance, respecting its power, and systematically acting despite it, you cultivate unstoppable discipline. Your habits become resilient. Your identity aligns with action. Your results become inevitable. Chapter 10: How to Build a Lasting Discipline. Discipline is not a trait you either have or lack. It is a skill, a practice, a way of living. It is cultivated through daily choices, repeated actions, and the systems you build around yourself. The person who acts consistently is not stronger, smarter, or luckier than others. They are ordinary individuals who have mastered the art of showing up, no matter how they feel. They have learned that action, not motivation, determines success. Long-term discipline is the result of many small victories. Each time you resist distraction, each time you choose effort over comfort, each time you act despite doubt, you are casting votes for the person you are becoming. Your identity is shaped by these votes, and your future self is the cumulative result of repeated action. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. It cannot sustain long-term achievement. Discipline, however, is a system. It is structural. It persists when feelings falter, when energy dips, and when circumstances challenge you. Habits are the foundation of discipline. Small, repeated actions compound over time. The habits you form determine your identity. The identity you cultivate dictates your behavior. Behavior produces results. Results reinforce identity. It is a self-perpetuating cycle. To build lasting discipline, start with clarity. Know what you want. Define your goals and values. Identify the person you wish to become. Discipline is meaningless without direction. Action without purpose leads to fatigue, frustration, and eventual abandonment. Next, design your environment. Remove friction from desired behaviors. Add friction to undesired behaviors. Surround yourself with cues and systems that make the right choice the default choice. Simplify your day so that consistent action is easier than distraction. Energy and focus are your most precious resources. Protect them. Align your hardest tasks with peak energy periods. Eliminate unnecessary decisions. Schedule strategically to reduce mental fatigue. A disciplined day is built on energy management as much as habit formation. Consistency is non-negotiable. Showing up every day, even in small ways, compounds into massive results. Do not wait for motivation, inspiration, or perfect conditions. Act anyway. Momentum grows from repeated effort, not sudden bursts of intensity. Self-control is not about resisting temptation through brute force. It is about designing habits and routines that make good choices easy and default. It is about shaping your environment, identity, and behavior so that resistance is minimized. When action becomes the path of least resistance, discipline becomes effortless. Resistance will always exist. It is the internal force that challenges every meaningful action. It manifests as procrastination, doubt, fear, or desire for comfort. Overcoming it is not optional. It is the essence of growth. Repeatedly acting despite resistance strengthens character, builds resilience, and reinforces identity. Time management is not about scheduling hours. It is about aligning energy, focus, and priorities. Doing the right thing at the wrong time produces less than optimal results. Doing the most important thing during peak focus multiplies impact. Discipline thrives when time is structured around energy, not the clock. Every small victory matters. Every repeated habit counts. Every action taken in alignment with your goals strengthens the foundation of your future success. Do not underestimate the invisible work done day after day, habit after habit, choice after choice. The cumulative effect of consistent action is transformational. Skills improve, confidence grows, identity aligns with action, results become predictable, momentum becomes unstoppable. Mastery of discipline is the ability to act without relying on external circumstances. It is the skill of showing up regardless of how you feel, how tired you are, or how convenient the moment is. It is the internal structure that carries you forward. To become the person who acts, embrace the following principles. Build small, repeatable habits that align with your goals. Protect your energy and focus. Remove friction from positive behaviors and add friction to negative ones. Act consistently, even when motivation is absent. Understand resistance and act despite it. Prioritize process over outcome. Track progress and reinforce identity through repeated victories. Design your environment to support action automatically. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about repeatedly choosing the long term over the short term, growth over comfort, action over inaction. The journey to mastery is quiet. It is often invisible to others. It requires patience, humility, and commitment. It is not glamorous. It does not reward dramatic effort. It rewards consistency, resilience, and strategic action. When you practice discipline daily, it becomes part of who you are. Your habits reinforce your identity. Your identity sustains your habits. Your results become inevitable. Ultimately, lasting discipline is freedom. It liberates you from the whims of emotion, the pull of procrastination, and the traps of distraction. It allows you to act deliberately, consistently, and effectively. It allows you to create the life you envision, regardless of obstacles. Every choice you make today shapes the person you become tomorrow. Every small action repeated daily compounds into extraordinary results. Every victory over resistance, every act of consistency, and every habit aligned with your goals reinforces the foundation of lasting discipline. You are not defined by talent, luck, or fleeting motivation. You're defined by what you repeatedly do. You're defined by your habits, your consistency, and your ability to act despite resistance. If you commit to this path, you will become unstoppable. Your actions will align with your intentions. Your identity will reflect your goals. Your results will mirror your effort. Discipline is not a momentary choice. It is a lifestyle. It is a system. It is the invisible force that turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. Be the person who acts. Choose growth over comfort. Show up every day. Build systems that support action. Strengthen habits. Protect energy and act despite resistance. Consistency compounds. Momentum builds. Results follow. When you embrace discipline fully, you will look back and realize that the life you have created is not the result of luck, motivation, or extraordinary circumstances. It is the result of countless small choices repeated daily in alignment with your goals and identity. It is the life of a person who understands that action, not feeling, determines destiny. You have the power to start now. No excuses, no waiting, no reliance on fleeting inspiration. Act, repeat, persist, build momentum. Discipline will carry you forward, and the results will be undeniable. As we reach the end of this journey, Remember that discipline is not something you wait for. It is something you build day by day, choice by choice. Every small action you take shapes the person you are becoming. Every habit you reinforce compounds into unstoppable momentum. You do not need perfect conditions to start. You do not need a surge of motivation to act. All you need is one small step, repeated consistently, aligned with your goals. Challenges will come. Resistance will rise. You will feel tired, distracted, or uncertain. That is when discipline matters most. That is when showing up, even for a few minutes, transforms your future. Imagine the person you want to be, the life you want to create, and the results you deserve. Every decision you make today is a vote for that vision. Every action strengthens it. Every moment of consistency brings it closer to reality. Discipline is freedom. It frees you from excuses, distractions, and fleeting motivation. It allows you to create, achieve, and thrive on your terms. Start now. Take one step. Repeat it tomorrow. Keep building momentum. The life you desire is not distant. It is the result of your actions today, consistently applied. Your future self is counting on the choices you make now. Act, persist, commit, and watch as discipline transforms not just your results, but the person you become.